So do you know anything about movies? I said, no, sir. And I'll never forget his heartbreakingly generous look that came on his face. And he said, zero is a brilliant figure to begin from. And she would look at me, फिर आँख खुली है तेरी, फिर आसमान को देखता है. And I remember saying this, मत करा कर बेटा, इतना मत सोचा कर, अकेला हो जाएगा. और अंधेरों में झाकेगा ना, तो अंधेरा अंदर उतर जाएगा तेरे. I remember Vinod calling me to Filmistan and he said, Bhagwan is very angry with you. I said, why? He said, you broke the mala and put it in the commode. So he says, no, he says, ask Mahesh to bring back the mala and give it to me in person. Otherwise, he said, and he dropped his voice. Otherwise, he said, he will destroy you. Yuji, who helped me out a lot, said that, look, you will never be out of this business and she is unfit for this business. So you are the gunpowder and fire. So if you really love her, leave her. And I remember we were sitting down in a hotel in Burley and I told her, I said, don't come very close to me, I'll destroy you. That's a dialogue we use in Raz. कि मेरे करीब बताओ तो मैं बर्बाद कर दूंगा. She says, मैं बर्बाद होना चाहती हूँ. I remember my nani used to keep on saying this, Jinn hai kya tu? Okay. And she used to turn to my mother and say, Shirin, ये तूने 9 महीने कैसे पाला इसको अपने पेट में? I was very restless. I was continuously like a house on fire. I was born that way.
मेरे आज के इनविंसिबल है एक प्रोलिफिक और एक्सप्लोसिव फिल्ममेकर जिन्होंने अपनी जिंदगी रेकलेस ईज के साथ जी है. Unshakable and unstoppable. Please welcome the powerhouse fire starter, Mr. Mahesh Bhatt. Bhatt Saab, welcome on this show.
Thank you, Arbaaz.
Thank you so much. Bhatt Saab, you started your career from zero, and zero is a brilliant number to start with. But this was something that was told to you when you entered the industry.
It was the same studio, Mehboob, where we are shooting this episode. I was unemployed. My mother had said कि बेटा पैसे दे के आना नहीं तो घर वापस नहीं आना. And so my father was going through a bad time and he had 2 houses to run and we were the illegitimate house. So the leftovers came to us. So it was somehow presumed by my mother that being the elder son, I would take upon myself the job of keeping the wolf away from the door. So I, through the help of my cousin, Milan Dutra's mother, Rajneesh her name is, who was very friendly to Raj Khosla Sahab, got an appointment. So I ventured, I remember, on a hot summer afternoon into Mehboob studio. I was stopped at the gate and the watchman said, कहाँ भैया कहाँ को जा रहे हो? हाँ जा कर रहे हो? ऐसे जा नहीं रहा, मुझे बुलाया है. That was a damn lie. Right? But the flourish with which I said it
was convincing.
Made him step aside and say, yeah. And I came and remember I stood outside Raj Saab's office for some time and then he summoned me in. I still remember the feeling. I walked into an air-conditioned room. It smelled different because outside it was hot. And in those days, air-conditioned rooms were less. I'm talking about 1970. And he asked me to sit down. And he was sitting down. There was this huge picture of the great Guru Dutt behind him. So he looked at me and I sat on that cold ragzine sofa and hum of the AC. And he said, okay, so do you know anything about movies? I said, no, sir. And I'll never forget his heartbreakingly generous look that came on his face. And he said, zero is a brilliant figure to begin from. And I think he said it, and from that began my journey. And I kept on hearing that voice again and again. And Arbaaz, the ability to empty yourself repeatedly in life has been one of the assets that I think I picked up way back in time, that success fills us up with this delusion that you know it all. till our business is so humbling that you score a century in the first innings, you go for a duck in the second, and then you have to empty the cup and start all over again. And the voice of the master comes back and says, 0 is a great figure to begin from.
Your first income was about 53 rupees.
Yes, you've done your research. Yes.
That money, what did you do with? And what was the job that got you that 53
Well,
rupees?
I had a friend of mine, Asghar Ali, who runs a travel agency now, my dearest friend, my childhood friend. When I was going through a rough time, I asked him, I said, get me any job. So we got a job in a company called Kiran Nixon. It just puts slotted angles. We used to go like fitters and turners to put up racks in offices and factories. So it was the 1 week's allowance, I remember. And when I had to go to Powai, they had the factory there, stand in line. I remember there was a slip given and there was an envelope and 53 bucks and 10 rupees notes, new 10 rupee notes had come and they were lean and thin, not huge. And I remember bringing it to my mother and I walked with her with pride. And I said, she said, what? I said, money. Pagar? I said, allowance. Pagar. Mahine ke end mein milegi. She looked at it and she said, she kept it in her blouse. And she said, इसको मैं अपने कलेजे के पास रखूंगी सीने से लगा के शायद आज जैसी नींद आएगी कभी आई नहीं होगी.
Wow. Did you ever feel that when your dad's movies were releasing that, okay, this part of mine, or at that point you were a little detached from all of that?
I never identified with him so much.
Did you hope in your childhood that he would bridge the gap and probably make, or you were okay with the scenario that it was there?
I was my mother's son. Finished.
Mother wanted it?
No, she wanted me to somehow be more respectful and more force a kind of an affection onto myself for him, which was not organic to my nature. And I always felt like he was an outsider in my house. And,
did the two women meet?
She was a beautiful woman, the other woman. I mean, she was one of the most generous women I have known. I mean, in fact, she was the sadder amongst the two because she was married to a man who had a concealed life. And she came from a well-to-do home. She was not some person who was just somehow palmed off to a man who was in the movie business. But she retained her dignity. She just put up with what was supposed to be an aberration of my father's life. But somewhere, I would say he was a good, weak man.
That's probably the reason why you once made a very bold statement that I'm a
But I was by the terms of the world. I never said it. You see, there was a journalist called Prochi Badshah. I mean, she's no more, very dear friend. So she came and she thought she was working for the Stardust. And she came and she was doing an interview. But of all those people who were living in, who were born to film families, who were not in the on the right side of society. So she came and I was controversial, I was successful. So she kind of interviewed me and then she finally walked up to me and said that, so in other words, Mahesh, you are. So I said, you what? And she left the word unsaid. I said, yes, if you want to use that word, you can use it. And I saw her face light up. She says, I've got my headline.
But did you feel that went out of context or were you okay with that statement, though you never actually intended to give it so strongly? Like, because it was interpreted earlier as, you know, you trying to get maybe some attention or sympathy or sensationalize something.
Yeah, I was called an exhibitionist. I said there's no, well, that was my life. And I didn't see any reason to live a lie which was pushed onto me. Why should I live a lie? That was my reality.
Acceptance by the society at that age was very important, or you were wanting to be a rebel at that time?
Well, I would go down and play, and I had encounters with vicious elderly men who would push me into a corner and ask me where my father is. And
did you have a semblance of the fact that you felt they knew something?
They knew, of course.
They did.
They would humiliate me, and they would embarrass me, and they would see. And one day I got so fed up because my sisters would lie that he's gone for shooting and he's gone here, he's gone there. And one day I said, my father doesn't live with us. He lives with his wife somewhere else, in Andheri. The sisters came and told mommy about it, and I got a beating of my life. But then I understood that after that they did not, these guys who were vicious to me, stopped harassing me. And I discovered that people manipulate you from what you hide.
So you felt humiliation was quite a driving force in your life to...
Yes, of course. The feeling of being, I think, yeah, my humiliations in my childhood and the need to see my mother not hide.
You did mention something about when you hang your shame.
Yeah, yeah.
It's there for the public.
Yeah, it's there.
There's nothing for...
In fact, you're nothing but what you hide. Yeah. You are what you hide. And that is me. And so I wore it on my sleeve. And
did it liberate you at that point in time? Did you feel...
It made me angrier because still I was not a person who was fitting in. My other siblings chose to live that lie. And I chose not to live that life.
Your mother said आप में फकीरों वाला अंदाज था. बचपन से वो आपको कहती थी. वो क्यों कहती थी आपको? और कुछ हद तक
मैं रात को जागता था, सोता नहीं था. So I used to keep on looking at the stars. I would, in the evening I would not play. I would go and watch the sunset, and I used to go on the Shivaji Park beach, and there used to be a crematorium. I remember there, and I would go to the crematorium and watch bodies being reduced to ashes. And I used to wonder, they say that the person that was brought here, who's been reduced to ashes, has gone somewhere up. Is this a story, or is this all that is reduced of your body? Is this? Is the question that was there since childhood in my mind. And I would stay awake at night, and I would keep on looking at these stars in the night. So I remember my mother would always come, and I remember her looking at me, and she would look at me. फिर आँख खुली है तेरी, फिर आसमान को देखता है. And I remember her saying this, मत करा कर बेटा, इतना मत सोचा कर, अकेला हो जाएगा. और अंधेरों में झाकेगा ना, तो अंधेरा अंदर उतर जाएगा तेरे.
You were not very academically inclined. You were not very much interested in studies and all that stuff.
I barely made it to school, and I dropped out of first year.
In fact, you almost rejected your teachers. You almost called your teachers liars.
I said that they read from the book and show off. What if I read the book? And I remember that if the teacher would look at somebody behind me and say that fellow is very bright, I would say, what kind of a teacher she is? She doesn't see the brilliance in me. So there was some kind of an arrogance in me, which was perhaps a way to compensate for the feeling of the inferiority that I felt deep down within me.
So at that point in time in your childhood, you probably didn't think too much of teachers, but later on in life, you did seek for some kind of person to teach you or be a guru. So there came in.
Well, I went after my experience. I had the wonder, and that threw me into a mystical area. And then I went to Rajneesh, and I was 2.5 years.
How did you get initiated into that?
Well, I was a very normal guy, Arbaaz. I had made a movie called Manzilein and Vishwasghaat, and they were flops.
But you were considered a whiz kid at that time.
Yeah, I was, but they were flops, and I felt that so. Let me now deal with this humiliation and this sense of failure by saying, oh no, I want something bigger. I want enlightenment. I want moksha. So I went into this spiritual supermarket. So I went to Rajneesh. He was the charismatic guru from Pune. And I went and I devoted myself to him. I wore ochre robes and all that. I did meditation 5 hours a day and hung from the trees and did all kinds of stunts and read every book from the cover to cover. Became a parrot. But deep down, my envy, my jealousy, my sense of longing continued. I discovered I can lie to the whole world. I can't lie to myself.
Was it around the same time that Vinod Khanna sir was
also
there?
Yes, yeah. So I was in a way perhaps instrumental in taking Vinod there.
Oh, so you took him there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
and then he continued.
yeah, and then
at one stage,
I broke the mala and I threw it down. I said,
broke.
look, it makes me a hypocrite. I can't lie. I said, I still feel envious. I still feel jealous. I'm just saying holy words, and I'm being a hypocrite. I can't lie to the whole world. I can't lie to myself. Then I was lucky to meet a man called U.G. Krishnamurti who debunked everything.
Right. But I just want to go back to the Rajneesh episode. So once you broke the mala, I believe he was upset.
Very upset. I remember Vinod calling me to Filmistan. He said, come here. I've got something very important to talk to you. I said, what? He says, come here. And I went there and I'd come back from Pune. And he said, Bhagwan is very angry with you. I said, why? He said, you broke the mala and put it in the commode. I said, I just broke it and I just put it there. I said, it's worthless. I'm a damn fool. This is a dog collar. He says, you can't do that. I said, well, I did that. I tried everything. So he says, no. He says, ask Mahesh to bring back the mala and give it to me in person. Otherwise, he said, and he dropped his voice. Otherwise, he said, he will destroy you. I said, he talks about unconditional love. Tells me it's okay if somebody makes a pass at your woman and to allow her the freedom to have that affair. And when I reject him, he says he'll destroy me. He's like a gangster whose flock I'm leaving and he wants to gun me down. So he says, no, you come. I'm very worried about you. I said, no, I'm not going to come back. I said, I'm not going to come back. He said, Mahesh is very angry with you. I don't know, he'll do something to you.
Did that also... I would not say the word jeopardize, but did that affect your equation with Vinod sir also?
No, it did not. In fact, I told Vinod later on that, of course, I was a renegade. I had broken away from that flock. Rajneesh told Vinod that, look, I worked so hard on Mahesh. He perhaps did not have in him what you have. So I said, oh my God, he's using you against me. He's telling you you're something special. I'm too unimportant. I was a nobody at that time.
Did he try to lure you back in any way? Maybe no. Vinod sir...
No, I remember after I became successful, after I made Arth and Saran, and I remember going with your father once to meet him.
That's right.
When his show in Oregon had flopped, and he had come to Bombay. It was before he became Osho, from Bhagwan Shri Rajneesh. Before he became Osho, I went to meet him. I don't know why I went to meet him. Perhaps to see what was it that attracted me to him. And I remember asking him, your father was there with me. And I remember asking him, I said, look, do you have anything apart from words to give me? Because I'm in business because people are lonely, and you're in business because people are miserable. But is there something, can you give me what you have? Apart from words. Words I can get from the bookshop. If you have light, can you give that light to me? If you can't give it to me, what's going on between you and me here? It was a 15 minutes appointment, Arbaaz, and it went on for 1.5 hours. He was trying to woo me back. And I was just not falling for those words. I was not the same, he was not the same. But then when I got up, I discovered that he was not responsible for anything. I wanted to hear things that he told me. It's like you going to a cinema hall, you buy a ticket and you want those dreams. You buy those emotions. You fall for that story. You can't get angry that that character does not exist now after the movie is over. So he was just an entertainer. He was an entertainer, a wordsmith, and a very successful man, a very charismatic man. He provided great comfort to people for a certain time, but it became a kind of a spiritual drug. It's a kind of a drug. So I keep on saying that gurus have a social role to play, so do prophets.
So whatever your equation with Parveen Babi was prior to the release of the film, did it get more fractured after that? Did it get affected more?
Well, I did not meet her after we parted ways in the 80s, because I was a part of her illness. According to my understanding was that when she had a breakdown, and my friend Yuji, who helped me out a lot, said that, look, you will never be out of this business, and she is unfit for this business. So you are the gunpowder and fire. So if you really love her, leave her.
But there was a time when you tried to help her and you probably took her away also.
Yeah, I took her away. I tried to heal her back, but it did not work. She came back. She came back. She came back, and they don't understand that this mental disorder has a cyclic nature. And you start feeling that, well, you can stay afloat in this viciously competitive business, very unforgiving.
There was also a time where probably one way of treating her was to give her electric shocks, and at
that was the time I ran away with her.
Yeah, because
you know, there was a set of Shan put up, and she was a big part of that movie. And
it was around that time.
Yes. And I remember walking up to Ramesh Sippyji's office, and I was just a toy boy. I was a nobody. I was her boyfriend. And so he just looked at me and said, "What's happening?" So and at that time, the mental illness was an enigma. Even now, it continues to be. And then I said, "Look, she's had a kind of a psychotic breakdown." And I said, "What is that?" And I tried to explain, and then he took the name of the doctor. How many times? So the doctor had said it would take 6 to 8 weeks for her to come back through functional normalcy. But they didn't have time. 6 to 8 weeks. They had foreign stuntmen and all. I could understand the impatience of the film industry because a lot of money was riding on her. So I think they put the pressure. The doctor said that if you want quick results, you have to give electroconvulsive treatment because that kind of. So I said, "Are you treating them or are you treating her?" If she is the object of concern, then it should be done through the natural effect of medication without using these extreme measures, which are the last resorts for people.
That was even supported by her mother, I believe.
She was yielding.
Her family.
Yeah, because she couldn't understand. She wanted, you see, I understand why people want to take these extreme steps, because they want normalcy in their home. And
quick, fast.
Quick. Quick fix, yeah. Because it's a nightmare to live with a person who's... and I have a very radical position against the ECT, though the whole medical fraternity now swears by it. But I disagree with that kind of thing. And then I hijacked her. I took her away to Bangalore, and there was Yuji there. And Yuji, my friend, helped me. And he told me that, "Look, the problem is you. You have to go away from her life." And then he tried to take her away to Switzerland, and she was okay for some time. But then she returned. And I told her, "Don't do it."
When you met her, did you have any semblance of any of this nature, or this is something that developed later on?
I didn't expect...
Was there any reason for this thing,
no,
or is it genetic
it's
thing?
a genetic thing. Okay. When I look back, I discovered that there were traces of her. Then recently, when Kabir was doing a book of his, he mentioned to me that he had experienced something like this when she was having a relationship with him in Italy. So obviously she was genetically predisposed towards it, and she had suppressed it. But to me it came like a bolt from the blue and kind of completely. It's like I left her in the morning, I was living with her, and she was functionally okay, and I came back and she was another human being.
So whilst this relationship was happening with Parveen Babi, you also were with your family?
Yeah, I was doing the tightrope walking, and
both would have been giving you equal amount of, I would not say the
would
word
say
stress,
that,
but they would have been...
I would say that Parveen was...
who was more possessive about you at that point?
Parveen was, because she was more insecure.
And that could be...
I wouldn't have left my wife if she was not so demanding, and she was... because she was alone. In a way, she reminded me of my mother alone in the city, you know, in a way.
So there's some kind of reason to be,
to
give her the support.
And the need to play the prince on the white horse coming through the rescuer complex, because you're nobody. But I somehow managed to... But I never in my life gave my first wife, Kiran, Lorraine, the feeling that I ever abandoned her. Because she always knew that that boy she met when she was 14 and I was 16. And so even today, she feels that if there's one person that she can lean on and demand the world from is me. That's the kind of bond we have had.
Post Parveen Babi, and the traumatic experience for some extent. Of course, it may have been beautiful while it lasted, and it may have had ups and downs. You got yourself again into a pretty much similar scenario.
Well, I was not saying that
you're like a repeated offender.
Yeah, I would not say I was in a beautiful relationship with Parveen, because you know when Silsila released, and I said that look, extramarital affairs don't take place in tulip gardens. They take place in seedy, dark landings, and you know people hide, feeling of sin. So that was a very traumatic phase with Parveen. But yes, as you said, that my relationship with my wife, with Lorraine, she was from 16. I mean, I never knew ever since she was thrown out from school, I became a father to her in a way. That was there in Ashiki. If you see Ashiki 1,
right,
it was there. That kind of that phase of mine is chronicled there. I became a father at 20. 2021, I was a father. And I was struggling to make ends meet. But then Parveen happened, and then it broke off. And I came back home. And then I had a son. And I thought I would take him for morning walks and all that. That's the first time Naam was being made, I think. And then Soni happened to me. No, I think Naam happened after that. Soni happened to me. And I resisted. But I was drawn into this relationship. And helplessly drawn. And I remember telling Soni that line which is there in Raz. I said, don't come close to me, I'll destroy you.
Did you meet her during the making of Saransh?
No, it was a picture which was not made. I met her. It did not see the light of the day. But in Saransh, our relationship bloomed. And she was the sanest person who came in my life. And she could contain and absorb my insanity.
Was there any incident that when you went to meet her somewhere, you wore shoes and went, because you used to wear sandals all the time?
Yeah.
What is that?
I came from the US and I was in awe of her.
Because even right now you're wearing...
Yeah, I was in awe of her. She was lovely. And whenever you fall in love, you always feel you're unworthy of the person whom you're in love with. So I said, how do I become worthy of her? So I wore shoes, and I felt so uncomfortable, and she looked at me, and that made me even more comfortable. And I remember we were sitting down in a hotel in Burley, and I told her, I said, don't come very close to me, I'll destroy you. That's a dialogue we use in Raz. कि मेरे करीब मत आओ, मैं बर्बाद कर दूंगा. She said, मैं बर्बाद होना चाहती हूँ. She said, I want to be destroyed. And that was rest of history. So, but I told her I will never leave. I will never leave her.
Soni ji had once mentioned that you are not one of the calmest rivers to be sitting beside.
Yeah.
When was that?
And it was a fight we were having, and we were we both fight very intensely, very passionately. And I said something, and she said to me, she said, come on, Mahesh, I may have not done this, I may have not done this, but just at least hand it to me. You're not one of the calmest rivers to sit by. The way she said it just seeped into my bones. And I stopped. And I understood that you can't possibly be living a life with me and not be continuously exposed to the kind of wild energy that I emanate. I remember my nani used to keep on saying this, Jinn hai kya tu?
Okay.
And she used to turn to my mother and say, Shireen, ये तूने 9 महीने कैसे पाला इसको अपने पेट में? I was very
restless.
I was continuously like a house on fire. I was born that way. There's nothing that I acquired.
Has any of that fire been diminished? Has it come down?
What do you feel?
I feel yes.
Yeah.
I've seen. Bhatt Sahab, I've also worked with you.
Yeah.
You know, when I first started my job as an assistant, I came on your sets because Dad was doing, had done Naam. Then I came on Kabza. And I've assisted you for 3 films, Kabza, Awargi, and Jurm.
Okay.
You were different then, okay? And when I see you now, I think there's so much of serenity and calmness, which is pretty much in your demeanor and your face right now. There's a light almost on your face. And when you talk today with so much of candidness and honesty, there's it's wonderful. Do you feel the same? Do you feel that you have made that little transition from being a very extremely, maybe volatile person?
I feel a lot of love for people. I feel a lot of love. I feel see, when you suffer a lot, suffering, there's no other way to get quote-unquote wisdom without suffering. When you suffer a lot, you develop empathy. It happens to you. You empathize with people. And I feel a lot of affection for people. The need to give. The need to give is what drives me. I don't want to do anything that adds anything to my reputation or to my bank balance now. I want to give. Because, you know, in nature they say, when an old tree, before it collapses, having lived its full life, through the ground, underground, through its roots, shares all its nutrients with all the other trees before it finally comes down. That's the way nature functions. So I feel that I keep on saying to people कि लोग बूढ़े हो जाते हैं, बड़े नहीं होते. To be an elder is to stop fighting youngsters for the goodies that they rightfully deserve. There was once a time when you fought for those goodies, right? And you got them. How much more do you want? What will you take? What will you add now to your arsenal that you haven't already done it? So it's like a
Passing
overflowing.
I think you mentioned about a candle when you light.
It doesn't diminish its own light. It kind of increases the... and the light in the first place is not yours. My lamp, I think Jalaluddin Rumi who said, my lamp was lit by another. So it's something that which you have got. It's
once you made the early series of films which were related to your personal life, then you came into the commercial mainstream filmmaking also. The film that really propelled you into the superstardom was a movie called Naam, which you introduced my father into. Because at that time, after Salim Javed had split, Salim Saab, my dad, had not worked, you know, for a very long time. He was doing a bit of ghostwriting here and there, and you know, he was like maybe repairing scripts and doctoring scripts and all that. You had this script with Mr. Rajinder Kumar was doing with his son Kumar Gaurav and Sanjay Dutt, and I think you all came to a stage where you all felt that this script needs to be kind of worked on, and you suggested that the best person that I think we should go to was Salim Saab, and you went there. What was that experience? And
well, I remember your father stopping me near, just around the curve near Mehboob, before your house there, where he stays now. I was passing, he stopped me and he said, I saw your film Arf and I loved it. And the generosity with which he said it, and he was the great Salim Khan. He was somebody that I had known as a child, because he was a person I saw as a child when he came into my house when he was doing a film with my father called Sher Shah Suri. He was an actor at that time. I was always charmed by his demeanor. He was a beautiful man. There was something very large about him. There's something that stayed with me about him. There was a largeness. Why do you enter a room where there are a lot of people there, and why are you drawn to one face? What is it that makes our heart beat for somebody whom you have met for the first time? These are mysteries that life can never be answered, or life can never be answered. So I thought of Salim Saab, and I told Rajinder ji, I said, sir, let's try him, because I think he has got the kind of largeness. And by God, that was the decision. I just had an idea, and then he just said, let me embrace it. Because he was thirsty. He was hungry. He wanted to reassert to the world that I am the king of the jungle. You know, that's the animal trait in all of us. Is like the king of the jungle beats his chest and says, here I am. And then he just took it, inhaled it, and made it into something else. And that was the most memorable journey I had with him because I learned so much from him. His sense of abandon, his sense of being able to take certain unconventional routes. His path-breaking ending, I mean, there was an ending that I had thought of which was very conservative. And he said, no, this is not going to be a Mother India or a Ganga Jamuna or the Diwar. This is going to be a brother who tells the other brother when the cops come, he says, run, he says. And I said, oh my God, this is a sheer genius. And that ending is something that added a sparkle to that film, which could only come from a man who was thirsty and was as large as him.
And his second innings, he seriously has mentioned it so many times to us kids. He says, the reason why I am back in the industry is because of, he says, there are two Mahesh in my life. One was Mahesh Kaul, very early when I came in, and there's another Mahesh, that's Mahesh Bhatt. There are two Mahesh in my life. They were pretty much instrumental in where I am today in my life. Oh my God. Yeah, he's coming to meet you today.
I'm humbled by his generosity.
He told me that, when you're doing the interview with him, please let me know, I'll come and meet him. And he doesn't step out too much. But he genuinely feels that, fair enough, I was a talented writer, but there was a time where I was not being picked up and I was not getting the kind of work. And the satisfaction, and Bhatt Saab was the one that put me back on track, gave me the confidence, and I had an innings after that was only post Naam and only because of Bhatt Saab. And he really, really admires you and loves you a lot. And then you all worked again on a couple of films together. And I think that's, even though after a while the work did not go beyond like a couple of films, but the love and the affection and...
No, it only increased because you see, that's what I'm saying, that your relationships, your reverence is not dependent to the box office collections, and that's when you make formidable bonds with people. And but I think he's a very large man, and a statement like this could only come from him. That I gave him. I did not give him anything. I mean, the fact is that he became the springboard for me to become what is called a box office phenomena. And he taught me something which is priceless. And in fact, when I meet youngsters, writers, they all tell me that, can you take us to Salim Saab? Because you know him so well. We want to hear him. We want to see him talk. And I tell them, yes. And they do it with a sense of sparkle in their eyes. So one of these years, I'm going to land up with a lot of young writers who want to just see him in person and just hear him talk.
But Saab, talking about your life, we cannot miss one of the pillars of your life, Soni. Soni ji, tell us something about her.
Well, she came to me at the curve of my life when I was not yet successful, but on the threshold of success. And then Arth happened and Saransh happened. But I was at that moment back in my relationship with my original love story, which was a teenage love story with Lorraine Bright. And then I found myself that I was helplessly in love with this girl. And I knew I was in serious trouble. And in spite of trying very hard not to deviate from the prescribed path, I found that the more I tried, the more helpless I got. The more deceitful I got. The more false I became in my own eyes. So I said, I can lie to the whole world. I can't lie to myself. I can't do this to her and to my first wife. So then I decided to give it some kind of legitimacy. And we decided to get married and create a home. So we started very small. We had a small little flat in Lokhandwala when I began. Because to run two homes, I was not financially that strong. And Naam had not happened yet. And then Naam happened, and suddenly there were resources flowing in, and then we got into a better phase of life.
she's also doing very interesting work at this point in time.
Yeah, she is a very competent actress, not only in the Indian context, but in the international context. Her idiom is different. But because her acting, her personality, her persona, and her kind of idiom that she believes in was alien to our industry, she couldn't make a mark for herself. But yes, she is doing work for herself. And I saw a film which was made by a Bengali filmmaker called Yours Truly, in which she was stunning. I showed that to Alia, and I said, look, before you get deluded that you're the best thing that happened to India, you must see this work of your mother and learn. And undoubtedly, she has some kind of a depth which comes with age.
I think we can, I can go on, but sum it up with this beautiful line and ending. Bhatt Saab, thank you.
Thank you.
Very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
You've spoken so well. We've learned so much from your conversation.
Thank you so much.
Totally admire you.
Thank you.
And totally grateful to you.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you.